All right. We're going to talk about how I prepped for EPT qualifiers, and this part's specifically talking about the builds, but we're not going to just do one matchup. We're going to do ZVT and ZVP at the same time. We're doing it right. So the thing that I have to explain before anything is the way I open in ZVP, and also ZVT for that matter, is a little bit different than everybody else. Everybody goes hatch gas pool on 16, 18 gas, they rally to the gas with their drone, and then rally their drone to make a pool as well. I also do 16, 18, 17, but there is a subtle but important difference that as soon as I have 18 supply, I take the gas. And now, I think this changed maybe, I don't know when this changed. I feel like it was like mid 2016, late 2016 is when people were like having a lot of trouble with the depths, and they realized we need to we need to make this build as efficient as possible to defend these adepts and stuff. Now, while you do get a little bit more minerals here and there, I didn't feel like I was losing because my gas was too quick and I needed a little bit more minerals. I felt like I was just bad and I needed to move my units better and then I'd be fine. But because of this one decision 4 years ago, when everyone else moved on to rallying all their buildings and I decided not to, it created a split in how my games looked in the early game versus everyone else's. And this is something that could easily happen to anybody when you're really trying to get good at the game, and there are decisions throughout the entire game. This happens early, mid, late game, where a lot of people will make a decision and they'll go off on a different string and maybe you don't follow. And then now, all of a sudden, because you have one or two more units or different units, or they're coming out at a different time, now you have to have your own answers for things, because you might have banelings instead of roaches for a certain timing because you decided you didn't want to defend initially with roaches, or maybe you go super queen heavy and now all of a sudden you can use that in a different way, and you have to be creative with what you've got now that you've made that choice to diverge off the meta, albeit pretty subtly, especially in this case. It doesn't have to be a lot, just little things like a gas timing, making a different type of tech building, taking a different base. These things can create snowball effects, and in this case, 4 years later, after doing this gas timing, I finally found the snowball effect of what really made a big difference in this gas timing versus what everyone else does, which is rallying into the gas. Now, for years, I basically just accepted, like, yeah, sometimes I'm going to kill Reapers because they just don't run far back quick enough. Or maybe they don't shade super safely. I'll kill out in depth sometimes. And I didn't really think there was much to it. The only big difference that I found was when people put on gas again to get their lair, I can put my guys back on gas at 4 minutes, and people who rally into gas have to put theirs back on at like 3:30, which I thought was actually a pretty big difference. But just because they didn't have the gas and I did, I thought, oh, that's cool. That's just like a little thing, just because of the difference in gas timing. But before EPT qualifiers, it was like 2 weeks in advance, I realized that there was an advantage in the fact that I get my gas earlier, just by the fact that I get my speed just a little bit faster. In the time that I get speed, I can do so much with my lings as long as I position them correctly to begin with. So what did I start doing? I was messing around with like Ling run bys in the beginning of the game, you know, getting the 2 in the natural and sneaking by, getting a scout. But I realized if I took my 4 Zerglings that I take my 3rd with, clear it out, make sure there's no probe, and then just go around the map, not for any run by into the natural, but rather to secure that this first adept dies, I can actually do it almost every single game as long as they send it out. And to me, that was huge. I catch the 2nd adept going across the map there. You can see the shades down here. We're following the shade with 3 lings and 4 lings on the actual adept. There's nothing you can do as Protoss. And I was like, man, this is crazy. Because normally killing adepts in the beginning of the game is huge for an opener. It messes everything up. You have to you either force an Oracle to Pulsar Beam, you force extra adepts to then take the 3rd. There's all these extra problems that come with losing the adepts. And any Protoss will tell you that this is a nightmare to deal with. If you lose even 1 adept, it changes everything. So, what I did with this, knowing that, you know, before EPT qualifier, I was basically just streaming and chilling, not really practicing for any tournament. I only decided a few weeks before that I would play in it because people wanted me to do it for the stream. I knew that I needed some kind of advantage going into the games, and my mechanics just weren't up to par compared to these people who've been playing for years while I was gone. I mean, I could catch up to where I was, but everyone's been improving and I'm the same as I was 2 years ago. There's no way. And even then I've built up habits that I didn't even used to have back then. But with this little trick, it made a huge difference. And I want to show you guys the intricacies of what I found in ZVP and also in ZVT. The big thing with this build, or I don't even want to call it build, tactic, is that you get to kill the first adept majority of the time. But I found if you can kill the first adept and they don't have a quick 3rd gateway unit, you can very consistently kill the adept or stalker in the wall. The only thing that would stop you is if they have a battery, an oracle, or another gateway unit. But I realized if I'm making 8 Zerglings right away and I snipe an adept, and then the only way I don't kill another adept or stalker is if they make shield battery, keep their oracle at home, or make a 3rd gateway unit, maybe even chronoed, it was totally worth it. So all the games in EPT qualifier and even leading up to it, anyone who's watched would notice that I was going really hard on this tactic. Now honestly, I don't expect anyone to really do this because everyone's ingrained into this rallying into gas stuff, so it's fair enough. But I think it's pretty cool, and you can definitely expect me to do a lot of this kind of stuff in the future, because it's honestly so much more fun. I want to talk about the things that I had to change leading up to this idea of I'm going to send out my 4 lings. Because I have my 4 lings out immediately, defending the first adept is a little bit weird. So the first thing I changed, thanks to Pilly's suggestion, was sending both the queens at the natural. So this way I can zone out the adept straight away, and then what I do is I make Zerglings in the main to defend the main base. So I got 4 Zerglings in the main, 2 queens at the nat, and then I got my 4 Zerglings hiding off to the side, waiting for Zergling speed to come. Now, initially, I thought having 4 Zerglings in the main was actually going to be really bad, because I've always had these terrible games where they come in the main and I chase them off of the corner and then they just kite me forever. But just standing on creep actually like saved this so hard, because as soon as they go to the main, they shade in. I basically can confirm they're gonna be on my side of the map with their next shade. Bring in my Zerglings, say maybe here for example, and while these 4 Zerglings at home will just chill on creep in safety. And then if they come on to creep to attack you, then you engage them, but don't even bother if they're like right here, because they're not threatening anything. If they get all the way close enough to attack a drone, then they're in a really hard spot to run away. And if they shade in it, like before even getting on creep, well, that's what these Zerglings are for. They're supposed to be camping out outside. So between the Zergling setup and these 2 queens out in front, you basically just hold all adept harass. It's no problem at all. And honestly, if you're safe versus any adept harass, that is a great reason to do it, in my opinion. Because that's the shit that annoys me so much. And then this game, you see the 2 adepts, so we can't get any more damage done, but we can just camp the 3rd. Because if these 2 adepts walk out by themselves, 7 Zerglings can definitely do some damage. You can get 1, maybe even 2. So they have to be a little bit more careful, whether it's in the form of an oracle, expanding with the oracle, or making even more adepts to then take the 3rd. It makes like the initial investment of the 8 Zerglings like definitely worth it. It's definitely an investment though, but in my experience, it is valuable. And this works versus Stargate openers. This works versus TC openers, especially, is pretty good. So I definitely recommend doing it. All right, another huge benefit to doing this is if you say have your lings out in natural and they only have 2 adepts because they're trying to be greedy with their gateway, or they have you know, like the adepts dying everywhere, they will use their oracle to save their nat. And in that case, if you can force the force oracle in the natural, you can get huge mileage off of just not making any spores and just droning like a madman. In this case, it was Phoenix, so I was droning anyway. But you can see shield battery, 2 adepts, has to make a 3rd one unless he wants to use his oracle to expand. But even then, I could be making more lings, and you can force the oracle beam no matter what. But that's besides the point, because you can always do that. It's no big deal. Alright, so that was like the TLDR. That's like the summary version of my ZVP that I was doing in EPT. Thing is, ZVT, I had a very similar idea for actually very different reasons, just because of the nature of ZVT. Actually, I want to look at the maps so I can show exactly what I mean. I was looking at all the new maps. This was, I mean, before qualifiers, season just started as the qualifiers come up. All, like, we're going to have 4 new maps. Everyone's got to play customs on them. So, of course, first thing I do, I'm looking at the maps. And I'm noticing all these maps have one similar characteristic between every single one of them. I know some people might say all the fourth bases are free. But it's not that. Every single one of these maps don't have ramps to jump down. Or if they do, they have very, very out of the way ramps. For example, Pillars of Gold has one here. Death Aura has one here. But the rest of the map, free. Rest of this map, free of any cliffs. Ice and Chrome, forget about it. There's no cliffs on this map. Just besides the one in the main, which, you know, whatever. So what I realized, and I think actually maybe here, this is like, actually, I'm not sure if that one is the cliffs. So very few in the middle, though, is the trend. So I thought, actually, submarine, no cliffs at all, just into the net and the main. So I was thinking, what if I just chase down the Reapers the same exact way as I do the Adepts? And usually the reason why you don't do this is because there's cliffs. There's always going to be a way out. With, you know, you see this in every single map. Since, I mean, it feels like every single map since the beginning of time. You're chasing the Lings, you're with the Lings across the map, you're killing the Reaper, you're about to kill it, it's one hit off, and it gets away, it jumps up. But for whatever reason, there's just all this floral everywhere. There's trees and all this crap. And it ends up being a map where all of a sudden, just being faster than the Reaper is enough to kill. So, with the same idea in mind, with going hatch gas pool immediately, a habit that people have brought to every single matchup at this point. People are rallying gas non-stop. Me, still being the stubborn person I am, going gas pool as soon as possible. I actually found a pretty good way of using this. So, same idea as before with the what's it called? With the opener. Two queens in front and two Lings this time in the main. But the thing I found the best with the ZBT version is if you can kill the Reaper quickly enough, you can actually get so much map control and force them to stay on their side of the map for a long time. Alright. This is a game, this is the perfect game to show this setup. So we have the two queens in the front. The idea with the two queens in this case is a little bit different than in ZVP. ZVP, it's to protect from adepts while we have four Lings in the main, and it's just to zone as best as we can. With this one, it's a little bit different. Because we're having four Lings get out on the map, we can't actually protect our second tumor properly unless we have four Lings plus a queen, or in this case, two queens. So because I didn't want to have to make 8 Lings right away, I decided to pull 2 queens instead and have 2 in the front, just zone as best as you can. And then if they do go to the main, you'll have 2 Lings to stop them. And 2 Lings in the right position can just like straight up stop it before it even starts. But in a lot of cases, you know, your Lings are going to be here, their Reaper's going to come up here, and it's fine to just go back, stall, pull back 1 queen, and then stall for the queen in the main, and then, you know, worst case scenario, he scouts the main, checks the nat for any roach warrens or stuff like that, any tricky stuff. But if you're playing tight, I haven't had any problems yet. So I think 2 Lings in the main is actually a lot more doable than like ZVP, where you're just going like 4 Lings in the main, 4 Lings out on the map. It's a little bit more budget. Actually, in this game, Vindicta pulls back his Reaper super fast. The reason why I wanted to show this game is because it shows how quickly you have to pull back the Reaper in order to be safe. So, you pay attention. He's poking up until 250, checks the third one last time, and then leaves. This is before you can even put down a second tumor. And in the case that they go back this fast, while the Reaper is still alive and could be useful later, that means the map control is like super low, and it basically sets up the scenario I was talking about earlier, where 4 lings, maybe even more, are in the corner of the map somewhere, and if you move out with your Hellions right away, it's a coin flip, and you are screwed basically, unless you go out like with 2 Hellions once you get your 3rd and 4th Hellion and supplement them slowly. But even that's like kind of rough. Like you're gonna have a pretty weak creep harass. So even in the worst scenario where our opponent plays pretty conservatively, we're getting tons of map control. If they go out with their Hellions, we can always punish it in the form of killing SCVs or scouting in some way. Maybe even catching a Hellion or 2 as they come out, or if they're like sitting on the ramp, you can sometimes just catch them off guard and surround them. It's not reliable, but it's something that can happen. These little things make a huge difference, because in this meta, every high-level Terran is rallying straight across the map with Hellions, because they know so many Zergs are going slower Zergling speed. And when they see this later third, and they can't reliably just rally across the map, I think it makes a huge difference. It makes it way more aggressive for you. You get way more options in the form of Hellion run by or Ling run bys. Certain like decisions, if they move out, you can Ling run by. You can go in the main. You can see different things. Also, you have this knowledge of like, I have 6 Lings on the side. I know he can't move out his Ling. He has Hellions yet. I'm just gonna drone super hard. In some cases, I won't even drone up the 3rd when I'm playing a standard game and I'm just keeping my Lings at home. As soon as I get 16 on the natural, I mean this is standard, right? Everyone does this. As soon as you get 16 on the natural, you start making Lings. But when you have Lings threatening in the corner of the map, and you know for a fact that they can't move out reliably, you can drone up your 3rd way quicker. And with this, you can pretty reliably do that. It's nice. Okay, this is my TED Talk.